Hi there, my name is She, and this is my first video that isn't really music related at all. I'm interested in releasing covers as well as video essays, so hopefully that's not too weird or jarring or anything. Additionally, I hope my mic isn't too egregious. I do have like a proper microphone and everything, I just can't really properly figure out how to make it sound good, so hopefully it's not that bad, and I'll figure it out at some point in the near future. Anyways, this video is going to go over the price figure to scale figure pipeline, what it looks like, and why you should absolutely follow it. And it will have a primary focus on my personal experience as an anime figure collector, so hopefully that makes it like a bit more relatable. First of all, let's establish what a prize figure is and what a scale figure is. For anyone not aware, prize figure essentially means a figure that is kind of cheaply made and sells at a very reasonable price. The prize part comes from the fact that they can often be won as prizes in claw machines or other arcade games in Japan. Conversely, a scale figure is basically just a higher quality figure that tends to be sold at a significantly higher price point. Technically, scale figures are meant to represent an actual scale, like being 1/7 scale, which would be 1/7 of the actual size of the character. But in my opinion, I feel like most people tend to refer to any large, expensive figure as a scale figure, even if it isn't technically linked to a specific scale. To give a reference for the difference in price, most prize figures in my experience tend to be in the range of like $20 to $40, while scale figures are almost always a minimum of $100, easily going into like $200 or $300 or even $400 or more. Now, I've only been collecting anime figures for about 2.5 years, so I am very well aware that I'm not a seasoned expert on this topic at all. However, I do currently own 38 figures, and I feel like that's a pretty decent amount in order for me to talk about this topic just a little bit. I got my very first figure completely by chance. It was a 2023 Christmas gift from a friend who knew that I liked Vocaloid, and it was a Sakura Miku noodle stopper figure from Temu. Yeah, my first ever figure came from Temu. It was not my choice. Anyways, that really jump-started my love for figures. I don't know why, but despite being a fan of Vocaloid for a really long time at that point and simultaneously having an affinity for collecting merch and trinkets, I never really realized how easily accessible and affordable Miku figures specifically were. Once I started looking into it, I came across dozens, even hundreds of Miku figures that were in the range of like $20 to $40. I was really blown away by how affordable they were, especially given how cute they were and how they perfectly encapsulated my love of Miku. So I instantly became hooked and I decided that I would start collecting figures. The first few figures I got after that original Temu Miku figure were also Miku figures, because spoiler alert, 25 out of my 38 figures are all Miku. I didn't get that many figures at first, just some here and there. I also got some ReZero figures during this time. And when the holiday season came around in 2024, I got a pretty big influx of figures, especially because my birthday and Christmas are close together and I basically get a year's worth of gifts all at once. Between 2024 and 2025 was also when I began collecting free run figures. During this most recent holiday season for 2025, I got like 10 figures because it was the main thing I asked for from friends and family. But here's the thing. The holiday season during 2025 was the first time I ever got a scale figure, and I actually ended up getting two. The first one was the Amelia Memories Journey figure, and I was absolutely blown away. I was genuinely in awe. I had never seen a scale figure in real life before, let alone in my own hands, and I was so astonished with the quality difference it had compared to all of my other figures. It is my favorite figure overall that I own, hands down. Shortly afterwards, I ended up receiving my second scale figure as a gift, and it was the Miku Fantasia Witch figure. Again, I was absolutely blown away with this figure. It is easily my favorite Miku figure out of all of them, and it's not even close. Once I had these two scale figures, it was like something inside of me kind of clicked. I looked at my shelf with all of my figures, and they were all prize figures at that point, and suddenly I was like, I really don't need any more prize figures. In fact, I'm really only focused on getting scale figures now. From my understanding, this is actually the average experience for a lot of anime figure collectors, and it's something that I like to think of as the prize figure to scale figure pipeline. I think most people start out collecting prize figures, which makes sense because they're so cheap and easily accessible. But even more than just starting out with prize figures, I feel like we tend to go really hard on collecting these prize figures very quickly. When you're just starting out your collection and you already know that you want a big, full collection in the end, it becomes extremely tempting to get every prize figure in sight and make up for lost time. A $20 figure here and a $30 figure there doesn't really feel that crazy, and you end up getting a pretty big collection very quickly. Except you realize that they're all pretty similar. Even if they visually look different in terms of style or what type of character it is, you notice that the quality is the same. I look at a lot of my Miku figures that are sitting right next to each other and I'm like, wow, they all look like they're worth $30. There's nothing super impressive or flashy about them, which, to be fair, there doesn't have to be. And if someone only wants prize figures in their collection, then that is totally valid. But I do feel like a lot of people start out with prize figures because they're so cheap, and then they're tempted to get way more prize figures, one after the other, and there's a chance that it's mainly because they don't realize just how good scale figures are in comparison. Now, I am not trying to sound super wealthy or privileged or anything. I know scale figures can be very expensive, and I am not trying to downplay that at all. I'm actually not very financially well off myself, and the vast majority of my figures were given to me as gifts from family and friends. Having said that, I think what I'm more so trying to touch on is the realization that it's better to save up for, a $100 scale figure instead of buying 3 prize figures worth $30. Yeah, maybe you get more figures when you buy prize figures, but the quality of the singular scale figure really does make up for it. I'm at the point in my anime figure collecting journey that I would much rather have one scale figure than 3, 4, or even 5 prize figures. I just have too many prize figures, and they're all starting to kind of look the same to me. I've definitely shifted my mindset so that now I want to save up my money and purchase a scale figure whenever possible instead of consistently picking up prize figures throughout the year. For instance, I actually haven't gotten any figures this year yet because I'm already committed to the idea that I only really want scale figures from now on. I've already pre-ordered the Miku 17th anniversary scale figure, and I'm actually really excited to receive that later on. It should be releasing in October of this year. As for some of the other scale figures that are on my current wish list, I'm also looking at the Miku Jungshu figure. I hope I pronounced that somewhat correctly. I'm also looking at the Rin Meltdown figure, the Miku 2D Dream Fever figure, and the Amelia Crystal Dress figure, either the pink version or the blue version, one or the other. I feel like these are all really beautiful scale figures, and they're great examples of what I would much rather be in my collection than even 15 additional prize figures. I feel like the scale figures would be worth so much more even if the monetary value of a singular scale figure versus multiple prize figures is similar. So, I basically said that all to say, if you have recently started your anime figure collecting journey, or perhaps you want to start someday, this is my key advice. There is very much a pipeline of prize figures to scale figures, and it's not only a natural progression amongst anime figure collectors, it's also the smartest, most beneficial strategy. Like, what are you going to do with 100 prize figures? You know what I mean? If you genuinely love prize figures and those are the only types of figures you want, then that's absolutely fine. But I do think that there is a separate conversation to be had about potential overconsumption and how overconsumption in anime figures tends to happen far more easily when it comes to prize figures. In my opinion, figures should be shown off and displayed in a way that makes them look like the works of art that they are. If you have a ton of figures that are all kind of crammed together and aren't really being appreciated, then you're probably better off selling some of them or donating them so you can instead invest in scale figures. When you have too many prize figures, they inherently begin to lose value and meaning. Like for me, the bottom shelf of my figure collection right now looks pretty rough, and there's just too many figures and too much stuff going on. And that was another sign to me that I should instead focus on scale figures. The progression to scale figures is not only natural, but actually quite healthy and encouraged for the hobby. It's a sign that you're moving on to a new stage of the anime figure collecting journey. So, yeah, I hope that helps a little bit, maybe, or at least shares a bit of info about my personal journey and how I perceive the collection of anime figures. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and bye.